today we're going to do some work on our hips. So, we got some little yogis at the back coming in. Okay, come and start seated down, just in the middle of your mat. And just take a moment to breathe and center yourself. Inhaling softly through the nose and out through the mouth. And again, softly through the nose and out through the mouth, releasing any tension. And then bringing one leg up, and we're just going to cradle our leg like a baby. So we're going to just open up our hips today, do some hip openers, and you might find that some emotions come up when we're opening our hips, because as females we generally store a lot of emotion in our hips. So generally with moving forward or making decisions in life, that's where we store that emotion. So if anything comes up, just observe it. You might be able to bring your leg up a bit higher or do some circular motions. So just like play around with gradually getting bigger with the movement in your hips, without forcing anything, just being nice and careful. And then we'll place that down and we'll go to the other side and just like cradling the hip. You can start up nice and low, rocking back and forth, and then you might find you can do some circles and bring it up a bit higher. Just see what feels good for your hip. You might feel that one side is a bit tighter than the other, that's okay. And then we'll place both feet down to touch in front of us. So we're in a diamond shape with our legs. And then just inhaling, making our body nice and long. And then exhale, we're just going to slowly start to look over in front of our feet and bring our chest slowly towards our feet. And without forcing anything, we're just slowly focusing on our chest coming towards our feet. And you might even be able to put your elbows where your knees are, and if you want a tiny bit extra, you can softly push down on the outsides of your knees. But again, don't do anything that's too forceful with this. And then just relax into it. Coming into your breath. And as you exhale, maybe we can soften a bit more into the pose. And then coming back up and just placing our hands behind our body and pushing up with our chest. Inhaling and looking up to the sky. And then exhale, flopping our knees over to one side and then coming back up and flopping to the other side. So just like windshield wipers, we're just flopping from one to the other. And then we'll just stay down on one side, and then maybe we can do some little circles on your hip, massaging into the glutes and the hip. And then flop over to the other side, do the same thing. Massaging the hip, doing some circular motions. And then we'll come back up. Folding our legs and coming forward into a tabletop position with our knees nice and wide, and then we'll melt our body back into a wide-legged child's pose and just start to sink in here, opening up the hips and melting the chest down towards the mat. Resting the chin or the forehead on the mat. And again, breathing into any tightness in your hip. And observe any emotion that comes up. And then pushing through our hands, lifting our hips up. And inhaling, dropping our chest and our belly as we look up. And then exhale, pushing through the top of our spine like an angry cat. And then sending our hips back towards our bottom. And we'll try again, coming back up, pushing through the top of the spine. Inhaling, hammocking the belly and looking forward. And then on the exhale, pushing back through the top of the spine and our hips send back to our feet. And again. Doing 2 more like this. In your own time, synchronizing your breath with your movement. And then returning to a normal tabletop, so just pushing up a bit so we can bring our knees back into parallel along the side of the mat. And then lifting up our right leg, and then just making some big circles with our leg here. So we're opening up our hips, some nice big circles. And then maybe we can reverse as well. And then finally we're going to end with our foot out along the side of our body. So we're going to point it out to the side of the mat. And then inhaling, looking up. And again, exhale, doming through the top of the spine and sending our hips backwards. And we might not be able to get our hips all the way down to our feet. That's okay. Just breathing in here. And then on the next inhale, coming up. And on the exhale, go back down, pushing through the top of the spine, sending the hips backwards. Just moving with between these 2 movements, flowing with the breath, and sending our breath towards our hip. And then sending the foot back along to the back of the mat. Our toes are pointing on the mat, and then we're going to swivel our grounded leg to the outside of the mat. Yeah, and then inhale, lifting up the right hand. So we're in a supported side plank here. That's it. And then lifting up the back leg and balancing here on the shin bone and the left hand. And then maybe you can grab the back of your foot and push into your hand with your foot, opening up the hips. And if this is too intense, we can still just go back to this one, that's okay. So pushing into the hand with your foot, and you feel a nice opening in the hip and also in the top right shoulder. And then releasing back up. Placing the foot back down, returning the hand to the mat, swiveling the foot back, and then both feet come back into our tabletop position. And then this time lifting up the left leg, making some big circular motions with the left leg. And changing the direction. Noticing if this hip feels any different to your other leg. And then finally placing it to the side of the body with a straight leg. Inhaling, looking up, and then exhaling, pushing through the top of the spine and sending the hips backwards. And then just stretching out here in kind of a child's pose with our leg pointed to the side. And it's okay if our hips don't get down to our ankle. Don't need to do that. Taking a few mindful breaths here. Breathing into the hip and the lower back. And then on the next inhale, coming forward. Dropping the belly and then exhaling, rolling through the top of the spine and sending the hips backwards. And again. And one last one. Nice and fluid with your motion. And then extending the foot to the back of the mat, toes touching the mat. And then we're going to ground through both of the hands at the front and swivel the back foot, or the foot that's grounded, to the side of the mat. And we'll open up into our supported side plank. And again, we can stretch our hand above our head. Nice and long. We can lift up the leg as well. And finding balance in the hand, the right hand and the shin bone. When we're finding balance, we can hold onto the back foot and then push into the hand with our foot. And we can always stay back in this one as well with our leg long. That's also okay. And then releasing the foot and the hand, swiveling the other foot back along the mat. And then we're going to start pushing up into our first downward facing dog. Pedaling out the heels here. Nice and strong through the hands. And then just swaying our hips from side to side. Bending nice and strong through the knees. Just swaying our hips from side to side. Just doing any movements that feel good in your hips. In our down dog. Then coming back to stillness, we place our left leg in the center of the mat. And inhale, lift up the right leg. And then exhaling, we're going to bring that leg to the outside of our front hands. Dropping the knee and inhaling, looking forward. And then exhale, we're going to send our hips backwards into a runner's lunge. That's it. And again, coming forward. And then exhaling. Back into the runner's lunge. And one more like this. Slowing down your breath. Making the movement last for the same amount of time as your breath. And then coming forward once more. And this time grounding into your left hand and using the right hand to push your right knee away. And we're just opening up the hip. Coming onto the razor edge of your front foot. And you might be able to use the push in the knee to open up your chest a tiny bit and twist around. But again, without forcing anything. Just opening up the hip. Placing the hand back down. And lifting up the right foot back into a three-legged dog. And then exhale and place back down to down dog. Again, shuffling our hips from side to side. Placing our right foot in the center of the mat and inhaling and lifting up the left leg. Exhaling, placing the left leg on the outside of both of our hands. On the outside, that's it. And dropping the back knee, inhaling, looking forward. And then exhaling, sending our hips backwards and breathing into our hamstrings and our calves. Dropping the head, shaking the head, releasing any tension, not only in our hips, but in our head and our neck, along the spine. And then coming forward again. Doing a few movements with your breath. Trying to slow it down and really feel the transition between both of the movements. And then we come forward once more, using the left hand to press into the left knee, round through the right hand, and then slowly pushing the knee open, coming onto the razor edge of the front foot, and then using that to do a little bit of a twist in the body. And then releasing the hand back down, bringing the knee back, curling the toes at the back of the mat, and then pushing up into a three-legged dog and placing the foot back down. And once more, pedaling out the legs, just relaxing the head, closing the eyes. Stepping the left foot in. Inhaling, lifting up the right leg into a three-legged dog, but this time dropping the ankle over the back of your body, and so we start opening up our hips. And we call this a scorpion in yoga. So from three-legged dog, you're just dropping the heel over the back of your body, so your hip comes up and opens up to the sky. That's it. And then looking forward in between your hands, we're going to prepare for a pigeon. So you might want to watch this first before going into it. Bending your knee and bringing the knee to the top hand, and then your leg is going to come diagonally down across the mat like this, so that we can sink into the pose. So it'll be across our body like this, and then we're sinking down into the pose. Yeah. That's it. And then using your hands just to press up and support your body. Find a comfortable position for your hip, because this can be quite an intense posture and restorative one. And then if you're feeling comfortable, you can bring your hands down as well. But it's also okay just to have your hands in front of you like this. So just do the level that's comfortable for you. And if your hands are down, you can just drop your head and sink into the posture, remembering to breathe. Maybe you make a little pillow for your head. And just take a moment to relax and breathe. Send all the air and love and compassion towards your right hip. So we have tight hips. This is quite a nice one to do, you know, as a restorative pose before going to bed. You can stay in the pose a lot longer. It's a nice yin posture. It's also quite intense at the same time, so just be careful when you're going in and out of the posture. And then using the hands to carefully push yourself back up. Well, pushing through the hands, lifting up the knee and the leg, and stepping back up to a three-legged dog, and just waggle out the leg, get the blood flow back into the hip crease. Yeah. And then stepping that foot back down into the center of the mat, and inhaling, lifting up the left leg this time into a three-legged dog, and then dropping the heel and opening the hip. So opening the knee to the top of the room, pressing nice and strong through the hands. So we do this. And then looking forward in between your hands, bending the knee, and the knee will come to the left hand and the foot will come diagonally across the mat towards our left hip crease. And then when you find a comfortable position, and start to melt down into our pigeon. You might notice that this hip is different to the other one. You might have a bit more resistance, or it might have a bit more ease. And just notice that. Again, breathing into any tightness. Noticing when we bring awareness into our breath and slow down our breath, we're able to sink into the posture, and the posture changes. And slowly coming out of the posture, pushing away with your hands, curling the toes at the back, and then slowly lifting up the knee and the foot, and then just back into a three-legged dog, but just doing some little circular motions to get the blood flow going. And then stepping our feet and our hands to meet in the center or the top of your mat, and just hanging here, releasing all your tension, shaking the head from side to side, and then we'll slowly roll our body up to standing. Shoulders coming last. And then finding grounding in both of your feet here, standing up nice and tall into Tadasana. And then just starting to transition the weight now onto the right leg, lifting up the left, and then just starting to do some big hip circles. So I'm just like playing around with the balance here, doing some big hip circles on one leg. Just get a bit weird with it as well. Just do any movements that feel good. So playing around with our balance, but also kind of open up the hip. And then coming back, still with our leg up and bent, balancing on one leg. And then with our left hand grabbing our left foot. And then we're just going to start tipping our body forward, reach up to the ceiling. Yeah, and start tipping our body forward. And we're going to come into a flamingo pose. So we call this flamingo, just like this. So tip forward your body slightly, reaching up to the ceiling like you're reaching for a star. And if this feels comfortable, then you can start to push away from your body with your foot into the hand, and then tip your body forward and out a bit more, and then we come into a dancer posture. But you can still just do this one with the flamingo, that's okay. Or you might want to play around with going into your dancer. Ooh. And then we'll slowly release and come back to standing. And again, playing around with the weight and going into our left foot this time, lifting up our right leg, and then doing some big circles with the leg. Whoops. And if you fall over, that's good because it means you're pushing your edge. And then balancing on one foot and bending the right leg, or holding onto the foot, and just focusing on a place in front of you that's not moving to find your balance. And then reaching up to the stars with your hand, left hand, and then starting to tip your body forward, reaching up to the ceiling. Yep. And we call this flamingo, so we can stay here, or you might want to play around with pushing your foot into your hand, which is a nice opening in the hip and the shoulder. Again, still trying to keep your chest nice and open, and upwards movement when we're doing this. That's it. And then we'll come back, placing the foot back down. And again, standing with both feet once more. And then hands on hips, and we're going to try and do a figure eight. Yeah, and then sending the hips backwards, sending the hips forward. So just doing some nice juicy figure eight movements. And then changing the direction. And then finally just coming to standing and feeling our hips holding and balancing our body. I'm just being grateful for all that our hips do in supporting all of our bones and the architecture of our body. And I'll finish with a little mantra about hips today, which is hip hip hooray, there's joy in every day, I'm happy and I'm free. Inhaling, reaching up. Bring your hands down into your heart. And then we'll bow all together. Namaste.